50% of those laborers are often undocumented. Grocery clerks, stockers, similarly been hit, and they're all considered essential, and yet they're all making minimum wage or barely above minimum wage. What do you feel? And we're going to start with Dylan this time. What do you feel can be done about these minimum wages? Is there something that the Congress can do about the tipped minimum wage as well? Let's try and cover the whole gamut of wages there if you can in one question. I know it's a big one there, but maybe we'll break it out if you want to.
Sure. I think the congressman actually just brought up an important point where small businesses still need a lot of help. That's actually why I found it completely stunning that the Democratic proposal for the most recent bailout includes $0 for small businesses. I've been saying for a while, Congress's position that it's places are too big to fail. That's a marketing slogan for golden parachutes. Their real position is that mom and pop places are too small to care about. Now, specific to labor, what we have had in this country fundamentally over the last 50 plus years is a decrease in the amount of money labor takes home relative to the amount of money corporations take in. During that time period, shareholders have seen an increase in income. What this means for laborers is they have decreased negotiating power and they have decreased buying power. You have to flip the entire economy from inefficient trickle-down economics, where shareholders get tons and tons of money and they slowly spend a little bit here and there. And we have to have what I call gush-up economics. Gush-up economics is the concept that families need more cash. People need to have more of their money come home. They don't need to be squeezed. And the way that you can avoid that is by expanding the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit. You move payroll taxes onto corporations while raising the minimum wage, including the tip minimum wage, to $15 an hour. And you decrease taxes on the first $50,000 of income. When you do those things, each one of those individually is only a couple $100 here and there, but in aggregate on a monthly basis, that's several $100. Now, that's several $100 for 500,000 people in Congressional District 2. In aggregate, at scale, if everyone has a little bit more money, if everyone has a little bit more power to work when they want to work, to negotiate with their boss, to go out when they want to go out, what we'll see is that gush up phenomenon. People will spend more locally. They'll spend on small businesses. When small businesses see increased revenue, they return those revenues to the local economy. They use local contractors. They hire locally. Now, again, local people get another dollar. That's a multiplier effect. That's why it's a gush up proposal. And that's really what Congress has been doing wrong for the last 20 years at least, is they've been so focused on making sure that the top of the economy is perfectly fine. The bottom of the economy, where the vast majority of us live, are just scraping to get by. Now, we were doing okay. It was just barely tolerable up until the pandemic, and the pandemic just laid everything clear. I mean, it's crystal clear that our system has failed us, and it was designed to do this. That's the real problem.
Congressman?
Sure. Thanks, Dave. So, first of all, I completely agree that wages are too low. And right now, it really is outrageous that someone has to earn 2 or 3 times the minimum wage to be able to even afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. That's why earlier in this Congress, I was proud to support the Raise the Wage Act, which would increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. No one should be working a 40-hour work week and be living below the poverty level. We need to change that. For more immediately, though, in addition to having voted for the Raise the Wage Act, in the most recent aid bill that Congress voted on, the HEROES Act, a couple things. There was an additional $1,200 in there per family member in economic impact payments, up to $6,000 per household directly in people's hands. So it's vitally important that we pass that bill. It would also provide, it does provide additional support for small business. It'd be $10 billion for small businesses, emergency grants through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and also there'd be money in the $175 billion in new housing support to help people pay rent, mortgage, and utilities. And then there's also another $100 billion in there, $100 million in disaster assistance to assist fishermen who are also a vital part of our economy and especially part of our culinary scene here in Rhode Island. Obviously, the fishing industry is part of our identity just as much of any other aspect of our culinary food economy. But we have got to work harder to help the middle class not only survive but grow. And assistance with higher minimum wage is absolutely critical, as is getting money to people's hands right now. It's another reason why we had included additional support for those who are unemployed. You know, that's a scary thing. If you're unemployed right now and you don't know how, when your job is coming back, if it's coming back, you've got to be able to provide for yourself and your family. And providing the additional $600 per individual if they're on unemployment was a big help. Now, some people have criticized that as too generous. Certainly, we can talk about the next round, whether it should be the same or some modified version. But it had both two effects. One, put money in people's hands right now so that they can get by and get through this rough economic patch, this health crisis. But also, it had a stimulative effect. We're a consumer-driven economy, and so we want people to be able to buy the products that they need, spend money in the economy. When people are buying products, it creates demand. When you're creating demand, obviously, companies are employing people to produce the products that we need. So we need to keep that cycle going. So that's why the extra 600 was so important to help people get through this rough time right now. And we're trying to extend that in the HEROES Act, as well as the additional $1,200 in stimulus payments direct to individuals.
Dylan, did you want to add something there?
Sure. The first thing is that insufficient wages is not a new problem. I mean, people have had an insufficient minimum wage for at least 20 years, and we're just now kind of kicking around the idea to do something about it. I don't know why we've waited so long. The other thing is a one-time stimulus isn't enough because we can't trust Congress that they'll do the right thing again, as we see right now. We don't know whether or not anyone's going to get a stimulus again. So one-time stimulus payment isn't actually stimulus. There's incentive to hold on to that money, to save that money and not spend it, because you don't know what your future is like. So a regular stimulus payment is absolutely necessary for the duration of the pandemic. The other problem with the $600 bonus on the unemployment is what we learned from the Great Recession is long-term unemployment is difficult to recover from. So we're actually hurting workers by giving them money only if they take unemployment. If we did regular stimulus instead, and we used a back-to-work share program, which reduced the amount of hours people were working per week, still gave them full compensation. On top of that automatic stimulus, people would have the money they need. We'd have the money flowing to the economy. We'd be dealing with reduced demand, with reduced hours worked, as opposed to reduced jobs, so that we maintain employment, so that people don't lose out on the economy, not just today, but in the future. When we start to recover, they won't have been unemployed for massive amounts of time, which are risky.
Can I make one other point, Dave? There's one thing I left out, which is really important. All those great things that I outlined in the HEROES Act, the additional stimulus payments, the aid to small businesses, the additional help for those who are unemployed. We passed that bill. The Democratic-led Congress in the House passed that bill back in May. That bill, like many other good bills, have been left to die and are languishing on Mitch McConnell's desk in the Republican-controlled Senate right now, which is beyond frustrating. There's a guy who's absolutely
and whichever one of you is in Congress, clearly you'll have to deal with that.